Hello and welcome to another online class with Shiro Kashi Aikido. In today's class we'll be looking at some exercises to develop the 6th and 7th Ken Suburi, which should help you when you come to practice partnered exercises such as Awase and Kumitachi. Before we start, let's take a look at the setup we'll be using. You can see I've created a target area that I'll be focusing on when completing the exercises, and standing in Ken Kamae with the tip of my Ken over the area I'll be striking, I've marked one line in front of the toes of my right foot and a second line behind my back foot. We'll be using these lines as we work through the video. Okay, let's look at exercise 1. All of the first 6 exercises are based on thrusts, and the first is the most basic, a thrust from right hand me. So from Ken Kamae, I lower my hips, lunge forward with both feet, pushing the Ken forward through the target area, finishing with it horizontal. When I thrust, I don't keep the Ken in an upright position in Ken Kamae. I turn it on its side. So I turn it to the right in this instance because my right foot is forward, turning the blade towards the camera. I also don't draw the Ken back to make the thrust. So we don't get this sawing motion. Instead, the whole body extends forward and then the arms extend the Ken at the end of the thrust. So it pushes through the target area. In exercise 2, I swap hand me. I stand in left hand me and make a basic thrust. You'll notice with both of these exercises, I'm stepping slightly offline. So with my left foot behind the back line, I push forward, pushing my Ken into the target area, making sure it's finishing horizontal. I'm rotating the Ken into that horizontal position, so this time the blade is away from the camera towards the target. In exercise 3, we'll return to right hand me, and again we'll make a basic forward thrust, remaining in right hand me. But now we're going to start to expand the distance that we're covering. So slide back maybe 10 centimeters or so, and then make your thrust. Repeat this exercise 3 or 4 times, and if you're feeling comfortable, start to expand the distance, maybe by another 10 centimeters or so. If you find that's too great a distance, then come forward slightly until you get to a position where you can just reach your target area. Keep focused on your Suburi form. Check your balance at the end to make sure you're not wobbly. And make sure you're not dipping too much as you lunge forward. And now for exercise 4, we'll move into left hand me and repeat the same exercise. So the first thrust just to get the mark, and then slightly draw back and push forward with your thrust. As you begin the thrust, lower your hips slightly, bend your knees and lower your hips, but only a slight bit, to sort of absorb the movement into your body, and then you can explode like a spring uncoiling as you make the thrust. Again, because you're covering quite a lot of distance, you might find that your feet are starting to come together a little bit on the final hand me, and this is natural. As we move into exercise 5, we'll change from the ski from the 6th Suburi into the ski from the 7th Suburi. So from right hand me, we're going to step forward into left hand me, going offline and making the thrust. As we go forward, we're lowering the hips, lowering the knees slightly. But what we're not doing is letting the Ken stay behind and then have to push it forward afterwards. So we don't advance on the Ken and our hands come to our stomach. We soften and the Ken stays extended away from us as we make the move. In exercise 6, we're again starting right hand me, step forward and make the thrust. In exercise 6, we're going to start to cover greater distance. So as we did earlier, we're going to slide back 10 centimeters or so and start to build up the distance that we're covering. So in this video, we're only going to be showing the ski from Suburi 7 on the right side, but it's good practice for you to repeat both of these exercises, starting with your opposite foot forward. We'll now look at some exercises that help develop the role of the attacker in the first Kumitachi. So from our basic start position, I'm going to step forward with my left foot, pushing the Ken into my partner's chest. The angle is about 45 degrees off the line of attack. And I'm moving at about a meter. It's quite a big step. As I do, I push the Ken into my partner's chest flat on. So if you imagine the table, the edge there is my partner's chest, I'd be thumping it with the Ken. Now let's look at the angle of the back foot as it lands. It's turning in, it's parallel to the line I was originally standing on, pointing back at where my partner is. What it doesn't do is point straight off towards, in this case, the camera. That's completely the wrong angle. So it needs to be turned in at this angle here. So that's parallel with the line that my partner would be standing on. Now from there I can start to draw back slightly. So I get a deeper step. But at this stage I can still keep both feet on the mat at the point of contact with my Ken with my partner's chest. So this is fairly comfortable distance. If I draw it back, it now starts to become slightly more uncomfortable. My heel starts to come off the mat, my foot might start to get dragged behind me slightly. I can't maintain contact with both feet on the mat at the same time and still reach my partner. See there, I'm not quite reaching my target. And so any further distance is going to make it even harder to maintain contact with the mat. So as I draw back further now to a more realistic distance, I've got to draw my back foot up as I make that strike. So my back foot becomes my front foot, covers the whole distance of those two mats. My other foot draws up as I make the strike. I'm bringing my feet really close together at that angle that's parallel with my attacker. So there's a step, the back step, and then the following leg catches up with it as you make the strike. And it's a feeling of falling into the strike. Your body drops and falls into the strike. The Ken doesn't pull back and then flick forward to make the strike. As you see here, the tip's coming back towards my body and then I'm able to push it forward. It stays extended away from my body. And then I make a wrapping feeling, an extension and a squeeze in the Ken handle just there as I finish the strike. You see me squeezing it and gripping it, extending through the Ken as I finish the move. So together, there's the move. I'm going to move back to the position where I was just leaving contact with the mat. So we're going to now move on to the next stage. So this stage here, I couldn't quite reach my partner. And what the next move is, I've got to raise the Ken above my head. So I'm going to make this into a two-stage move. I'm going to step and strike, keeping both feet in contact with the mat. Then as I draw my back foot up, I bring my hands above my head and the Ken above my head in protection. So here my elbows are not sticking out, they become a target, they get hit, they're kept in. Also my hands are not right together, there's a gap between them of about fist width. So from this distance it's quite easy for me to keep both feet on the mat and make this a two-part move. But once we start to expand the distance again with our attacker, we need to start thinking about how our feet and our hands coordinate. So the strike as my left foot comes forward and then raise into the block as my other foot joins it. So step and strike, step and raise. If we want to take the Kumitachi to the next level, to become a lot more fluid with the attack and not give our defender a chance to breathe, we need to just tweak the angles of what we've just done. So at the point where we step across and bring our back foot up, we're actually starting to turn the body. So I step and strike. This is from the comfortable distance, what we're practicing. And I start to raise the kent above my head, bring my foot together, and then I start to turn my body and drop the ken behind my back so it's in a loaded position, ready to move forward. I'm in a really small hand me, a little smaller left hand me, left foot's pointing forward, ready to pounce forward on the next strike. Step, bring my hands up in the block, and then as the foot comes up, I turn my body. So all my weight's in my left foot. I'm able to then turn my hips back, load the ken behind my back. So strike and back. So if we start to expand the distance, let's move back a little bit further, then we can start to make it into a one-part move there. And now we can start to put in the second cut. So this is all about weight transference. So the weight's going to be going to the left foot, bringing the feet together as you turn your hips, and then pushing forward with your left foot to allow you to strike. This makes it a really quick strike and really puts pressure on your partner. So if we look at the footwork, even without the ken, we can practice stepping and bringing the feet together and swapping the weights across between the feet. So this will really help you with your weight distribution. So if you are struggling while you're holding a ken, just practice stepping in this way. And then bring the ken back into it again. And there we have it. We have a nice smooth first two moves for the first Kumitachi. When practicing any of these exercises, always check the ground conditions first and take appropriate care. Okay, well that's the end of today's class. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you next time.